So hello and welcome back to the channel, guys. Now today I want to talk about the Eternals, the Marvel movie, because when this movie came out, it was critically panned and it was pretty panned by audiences. I watched it recently and I seriously do not understand why. I love this movie. As far as Marvel movies, I would put it like A and S tier for me. In terms of just talking about like spectacle and talking about action and powers and whatever. This was a 10 out of 10 for me. It was awesome, man. Like I tried to get some screen caps of like fight scenes, but that didn't really work out that way. But really awesome. I mean, totally for sure. I think some of the powers looked very similar, like Icarus's powers and his powers looked very similar. But I could tell whose was who. They have their own like feel to them, even if they like look visually very similar. And she was probably the best representation of super speed I think I've seen in any movie, like period. Like on screen, some of the best super speed action I think I've ever seen. Like I'm really not joking about that at all. So I'm just really not sure what all the hate was for. I thought this was really awesome. And I put this in like a similar tier in terms of things I was like gonna get around to as Shang-Chi. People said like Shang-Chi was like a 7 out of 10 for a Marvel movie. Like it was alright. But I thought this was complete fucking dog shit. I hated Shang-Chi, bro. Like the first 45 minutes of Shang-Chi could have been a text in the family group chat. This movie was ridiculous. And I thought the action was like okay when it started out and then it got good towards the end. And I thought the Eternals action started out good and got absolutely great at the end. So I'm just really not sure, like, these came out at around similar times, at least in my opinion, at least like in my eyes, because I don't really like pay too close of attention to like Marvel releases and everything. So in my eyes, they came out around the same time. So the fact that people thought this was really good and thought the Eternals was really bad just blew my fucking mind. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. This movie is so shit, and I'm gonna yell about it some more later. But really, I think the Eternals' main problem is that it is a overly ambitious and somewhat poor example of how to write a lot of characters that are very similar but also very different. Where I think Succession is a much better example of how to do this well. So I'm not going to get into too many spoilers about Succession, but I will talk about Succession a little bit. So in Succession, right? They're all the kids of basically the parody version of the guy that owns Fox News, like a media like conglomerate, and they're all super spoiled. They're all super privileged and they're all super arrogant, but they're arrogant and spoiled and privileged in different ways. So let's start with Ken. Ken is he's like the former junkie of the family. He's trying to prove that he can keep his head on straight, he can run the company, and he can replace his father when the time comes. And when that doesn't work out, he wants to be his own businessman. But he wants to be his own businessman using the pockets of his father, using his daddy's piggy bank. So it's just like never gonna work out that way. And all the people he wants to do business with don't really respect him because of where his money comes from. And anyone that he wants to do business with that is, friends with his father, is in business with his father, don't want to compete with him. So it's really a fruitless kind of effort. Now Roman is competent at what he wants to do, but he has a lot of self confidence issues. He's also kind of like the exact kind of perv the scene needs him to be for it to be funny. So that's cool. But he kind of is like the 5-year-old kid that still sees his dad as a superhero. Like he really like reveres his dad. He doesn't really say anything negative about him, even though he feels negative things towards his father. The rest of his siblings voice it a lot more often than he does. Now Shiv is like the sort of classic liberal white lady who is convinced just because she does not believe the same like racist, xenophobic, homophobic, misogynistic stuff that her family and her parents believe, that she is somehow absolutely immune from having any prejudice in her mind whatsoever. She's wholly above that. That's what she kind of is, and she has a lot of like aspirations, ambitions in terms of politics, like democratic politics. But it's all kind of like a farce. It's all kind of bullshit because you're being bankrolled by basically Fox News. So like, what the fuck are you gonna do in terms of like democratic politics? Like, it's all for show for the most part. It doesn't really mean anything because of where the money's coming from. Who's really backing you? Also, she's carrying an absolute dump truck, man. She could shiv me whenever. So Connor is the kid from the previous marriage. So he is not really like in line in terms of this like royal lineage, if that makes sense. He's not illegitimate, but he's not the same. He's not the eldest son, and there's like a kind of like a conflict between all of them because of this. So he's always kind of like doing his own thing. He's a little bit more creatively ambitious, but all of his ambitions, like every attempt to be taken seriously, always kind of falls flat. It always kind of just makes him look like a ridiculous child. Also, I saw a meme somewhere that said that if the submarine was in this show, the Titanic submarine, he would have definitely bought a ticket for that. And I thought that was kind of funny. So Succession, though, is a much smaller cast. It's a much lower stakes story. It's like a comedy drama. So it has time to kind of put each character under a microscope, to have conflict between each character and see how it plays out over, a long period of time. So it's a good character study because you can see what makes each of them tick when you put them, under a microscope. But Eternal is a much like bigger, epic, grander scale kind of story. So it doesn't really have the ability to do that in a way that's, lower stakes. And also just does not give itself the time to do that. I think this would have worked a lot better in a miniseries, but for what we got, I liked what they did with it. The way that so what I like about the Eternals, right, is that it is the opposite of a hero's journey. Like the hero's journey, what I don't like about a hero's journey in all these Marvel movies is that it is a predetermined point that they will become the hero, that they will choose the selfless action, that they will save the world, yada yada this, whatever. They're gonna have a fight with their friend in the third act, and they're gonna remember that family is everything, and then they're gonna save the day, yada yada. It gets fucking boring. It gets really derivative. All right, I get tired of seeing it over and over again. But this kind of story is something I have not seen too much, where it is all of them dealing with the fact that they thought that they were the guardians of humanity, that they were there to be superheroes, but then they find out that they're not heroes. They are shepherd dogs for humanity. Like, they are there to, like, wrangle cattle. And they all react very differently to this information, right? Some of them try to hide and suppress this information as much as they can. Some of them cannot deal with it. They just can't handle it. Some of them isolate themselves. Some of them do the opposite, where they want to express themselves very as openly as they can. Right? Others seek community. Others seek family. But they all react very differently to this information. Another thing that I thought, or I assumed from the way people were talking about this movie online, like reviewers and stuff, was that it was going to be super dreary and mopey and sad and shit. But honestly, like, this had some of the best comedy I've seen in a Marvel movie in a long time. Like, this one scene with Druig and Kingo made me laugh harder than any joke in a Marvel movie for like the past 10 fucking years. And I'm not kidding. Right? This simple scene where they kind of reunite after like years of being away from each other. And Druig is kind of like taunting him a bit. He's like, oh yeah, like, oh, look at you, the big, famous Bollywood man. And Kingo's like, like, I'm not just an actor. I've also directed some stuff. He's like, oh yeah, I directed what? And he's like, oh, some independent stuff. He's like, oh yeah, on where? Like, some YouTube stuff, whatever. He's like, oh really? How many views you got? Like, this is classic sibling energy. This is two people that know each other really well and are trying to get on each other's nerves. Or at least he's trying to get on his nerves. He's trying to fuck with him. Right? This is just like, that's all you really need is two characters being honest and communicating, but the communication between them is funny. Boom, comedy. Not this fucking AI bot generated type of comedy where they mix tense scene with a fucking dopey ass one-liner and boom, spits out comedy. Laugh track rolls. Like, this is what fucking ruined the Hawkeye show for me. I wasn't even excited for the Hawkeye show. And this character, and not this actor, but this character ruined it for me. Right? It's the same character that's in the Marvels thing. And the same actor. And I know it's not the same fucking actor. You don't gotta tell me. Don't comment that. Right? But they look the goddamn same. It's crazy. And they play the exact same fucking character. It's annoying. It's like they just cloned her, put her in something else. I don't understand why they fucking did that. Her fucking personality and her, like, sense of humor was fucking irritating to me. And you know what I'm talking about, right? It's the kind of humor where, like, someone will be talking about a super dangerous evil villain while they're sneaking through his lair. And then they're talking about, oh, it's Glactor, the Glopagoop, the most dangerous badass bounty hunter of all time, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, wait, he's right behind me, isn't he? Like, that bullshit. Or like when they're, you know, they're in like a chase scene, right? They shoot an explosive arrow, hits a car, kills everyone inside the car. The car swerves off, hits a bus, kills a bunch of innocents and an old lady, and they're just like, oh well, that's gonna hurt in the morning. Or like when, you know, like an alien bursts out of someone's stomach, splatters the wall in, you know, blood and guts, rips them in fucking half, and they're just like, oh, looks like someone had some really bad sushi for lunch. Like shit like that, bro. I can't fucking stand it. And this was like a nice change of pace from that typical, like, just like AI bot fucking humor that's in all these fucking Marvel properties. It's irritating. And I honestly think that some of the best stuff that, you know, Marvel has to offer is on Disney Plus. You know, like WandaVision was different. It was fucking cool. Loki was different and it was fucking cool. What was the other one? Moon Knight was different and it was fucking cool. So what have we learned, right? When someone tries to do something like different and cool, maybe just give it a chance. Like, it was so weird seeing like so many fans like bandwagon to hate on like She-Hulk. I really just did not understand it, right? Because the Marvel fans will complain that everything feels the same. And then they'll watch the same shit, and when something is different, they'll just disregard it, or they'll hate on it, or they'll pan it. Like, what the fuck do you want, bro? If someone does something new and different, give it a chance, and you'll get new and different shit. If you keep eating up this same fucking shitty slop, you're gonna keep getting this same shitty slop, bro. It's really that fucking simple. There's not much else to it, bro. I'm really not sure what people's problem was with this movie. In my opinion, in terms of like Marvel movies, 9 out of 10. 10 out of 10, S tier, peak, bro. This shit was gas. The powers were cool. The action was cool. The dilemma of all these characters, the moral conundrum was fucking awesome. It was really cool. That one scene where he's with his like cult and they're getting attacked by those like dog monster things, and he's like mowing them down, controlling like, a bunch of different like people with his powers. Probably some of the coolest like hive mind sort of mind control I've ever seen in a movie or a TV show. That was fucking dank. I'm not sure what the issue was. This movie was perfect, except for this Lolly character. That was kind of weird. Not sure what that was about. And their romance was kind of underdeveloped. But other than that, it was totally fucking other than that, it was totally perfect. And her character was kind of bland, and I don't really remember much about her character. She's kind of like just the self-insert character. But other than all those flaws, it was a perfect movie. Alright, so can't wait for Eternals 2, which is never going to happen because Marvel fans have fucking shit for brains. But anyway, thank you so much. That's about all I got. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great one.